Hi everyone, Paula Sullivan here again. I'm sharing through my videos different things I've used to help me with my stroke recovery. And for anyone who hasn't watched any of my videos before, I had a stroke in 2024 on the 15th of July. It didn't come across like the usual symptoms of FAST, which is face, look for drooping, arms, see if you can raise them above your head. Speech, was my speech slurred or slowed down, or could I not speak? Or time to act. So that's FAST, F-A-S-T, and that's what you'd normally look for with a stroke. My stroke came on the Monday the 15th, and it was like a zap into the head, like something clicked off deep inside my brain, and I had serious fatigue and nausea feelings for a few days. And then on the Wednesday I started losing power in my arm and leg, and then by the Thursday I was fully paralysed. So that's how my stroke came on. I was in hospital for 3.5 weeks and rehabilitation then for another 4.5 weeks. I'm 13 months since the stroke, and as you can see the rollator there behind me and the stick, I have to use them for walking. I can't walk more than a few steps without using a stick or the rollator. My left arm here was the one affected. I have got it now that I can do things with it, but it's still heavy, it's still tight or something. I don't know how to explain it. It doesn't always do what I wanted to do, but I can force it to do movements, but I can't sustain it for very long. When I get tired, the spasticity comes in. But I'm a work in progress and I'm doing a lot of work with it. So I'm very happy about the progress I've made so far. So what I really wanted to share with you today, the last video I made was about unresolved mental and emotional conflicts and how they can affect our health and our recovery. Basis of this, very simply, if I can, everything is energy, vibration and frequency, and energy cannot be destroyed, but it can be transformed. And everything being energy, thoughts are energy, emotions are energy, and what they do is they become dense energy in the body, and they block the energy flow, the oxygen flow into your brain. They block the oxygen flow into other limbs and stuff like that. They stop blood flow as well in its worst situation. So I was looking in the other video, I was looking at the possible contributing factors to stroke on a mental and emotional level. So if you want to check that video out, I wanted to share with you, I'll stick the glasses on here, a very good system I've been using. I was using it 7 years before the stroke. I've done a lot of work with it. I'm not a qualified practitioner in it or anything like that. I learned this. I've researched a lot of different stuff, which I'm going to share in the videos over the next while. I've used a lot of systems connected with energy healing, clearing mental and emotional blockages in the body and stuff like that. I've done an awful lot of work of that. So the first one I'm going to share with you, well, they're both connected. So this is the book. Now there's a different cover on it now, but this is the one I bought, which was back in 2018. And it's The Emotion Code by Dr. Bradley Nelson. So first, before I go into it, I want to share my experience with it first. So back in 2018, I developed a pain in my leg, in around my ankle, my left side. This was before the stroke, obviously. I was finding it, I was a very, very dedicated walker every day, very fast walker. And I found that at first it felt like a pebble in under my foot. That's what it felt like. Then it went up into the whole foot, and then it went into the ankle. So the ankle kind of looked a bit odd, and it was painful. But I mean, I continued to walk as best I could, but it was very painful. So I went to see a foot specialist, a podiatrist, you know, and they were giving me different things over a couple of weeks. I was wearing a pad in under my foot. They were doing like manipulation of my feet, which was horrifically painful. I was crying. It was that painful. Like, it was like, I likened it to being in the torture chamber, you know. And this was going on for a few weeks, and then they said to me, "Oh, we're not going to fix it so easily. We'll have a few more sessions." And I says, "Oh, for heaven's sake!" And I came home that evening, and I was watching. At the time, it's like a spiritual version of Netflix. It was Gaia.com I had at the time, and they had all these very, spiritual kind of documentaries on them, and all healing and stuff like that. I was fascinated by it, and there was a documentary called Emotion, I think it was called. And there was a load of different speakers on it, and I just started listening. At the time I had a pain in my thumb as well, and there was a couple of guys on talking about how emotions when they're not released, when they're repressed and stuck in the body and not dealt with, not processed by the mind properly, and we push them down, that they can cause areas of pain in the body. And I thought, this is fascinating. There was a load of interesting speakers on it, but this particular guy, Dr. Bradley Nelson, really caught me because he said he had a book. So I ordered the book and I read it in 2 to 3 days. I flew through it. I was up late into the night reading it. And it's the type of book that you don't have to train in anything. You don't have to do a course. The information's there. Now, you can become a practitioner if you wanted to. But I love getting a book and putting whatever it is into practice. It might only be 1 or 2 things I'd get out of a book, but I love practicing what I read, and it makes sense to me, and then it's real for me. So I started clearing trapped emotions, and within the week, there was no pain in the foot, no pain in the ankle. I was able to walk properly, and I was going, wow, there's something in this. There's something definitely in this. So I continued, and I've been working with this for myself and my family since 2018. Even the day before the stroke, I knew some illness was coming because I checked, this is advanced stuff now, checked what percentage was my endocrine system functioning at, and I got 20%. That's not good, but I had no knowledge. There's so many things I deal with. I hadn't come to stroke yet, and then of course I had the stroke. So after the first week, really so hard for me, like literally couldn't think clearly or anything. That second week, I mentioned in other videos, I started doing work on myself in the second week, to listening to solfeggio frequencies, anything I could do, brainwave entrainment, binaural beats, all that kind of stuff, to try and get my brain back in synchronization. Now I knew there was damage done, but I just said, is there anything I can work with now to get myself out of fight and flight, to get my nervous system regulated again? And if I can get myself thinking clearly as best you can after a stroke, is there anything I can do for myself? So I happen to have this on an app as well. I'll just see if I can find it now. Okay, I have the Body Code app on my phone. So I pay for this app, but you can get the emotion code free. And on discoverhealing.com, I think is his website, you can actually download the sheets and stuff like that for using this system. But this is the Body Code. Okay, there's a chart there. See if I can show it to you. Sorry about this, it's the light I have here. So this is the emotion code, and it's a list. There's a chart of different things. I'm going to read it out because I can't show it to you properly. I'm sorry, it's just the way the light is here. So we've got like he's got like areas of the body like heart or small intestine. So you'd have maybe emotions like abandonment, betrayal, forlorn, lost, love unreceived, effort unreceived, heartache, insecurity, overjoy, vulnerability. And then you could go into spleen or stomach, lung or colon, liver or gallbladder, kidneys or bladder, glands or sexual organs, and he does all of that, right? And then there's a more advanced system then that would deal with other areas like the endocrine system, and that would be in the Body Code. So I'm going to just briefly show you the Body Code. So I started with the emotion code and worked with that for a couple of years and became very, very proficient in actually clearing trapped emotions and things called hidden heart walls and ancestral heart walls, stuff that gets passed on. They say like illness runs in families, but it's actually, you know, it's the unresolved issues that get passed on to the children and grandchildren. Each generation tries to improve upon the next, but energies get passed down, and it's important that these energies get passed down, because if you were coming into the world with no clue of what went before you, it would create maybe a mental illness or some issue with you that you would not be able to cope with the world. So generally that's the way the body works, is it passes stuff onto the generations that come after. It's like there was a thing in the Bible or something, it's like the sins of the fathers are passed on to the next 7 generations. It's not so much sins, it's more omissions or not being able to process true emotions and stuff like that that gets passed on. Not so much, it depends what you believe. I'm not trying to go against anyone's beliefs here, just a metaphysical way of looking at this. So if you clear your emotions, if you clear your emotional baggage, you're obviously going to pass on less to your children, and then they're going to be less traumatized and they'll pass on less to their children. I don't know about your parents, but mine, they didn't have any emotional intelligence. They were on survival mode like most parents, and we all come with different issues. I certainly had a lot of trauma issues from my childhood. there was a lot of abuse, and that set the pattern for the relationships I went into, that I ended up, because I had very low self-worth. So when you have low self-worth, just briefly, you're looking to find your worth outside of you. You're not discovering your worth within you. You don't realise you have worth. You're looking for everyone else to validate you. And that can bring you into some very dysfunctional relationships indeed. So I've done a lot of this work over the last 16 years. First as a hypnotherapist, learning all about that, using Reiki as well. I went into coaching then. And then since 2018, I got into body code, emotion code, and many, many different systems, which I hope to share. Court of Atonement is another brilliant one. I'll make a whole video on that and how I've been using that. So I continue now. I have my mind back after the stroke. It's taken me a while. I'm able to read now. I'm able to research again. I'm able to recall some of the research I did before the stroke. Not 100% there. I do get a lot of fatigue. So I've a small slot where I can actually make this video today, and then I'm going to get very, very tired in the day, and then I'll try and get up and do some other stuff. And that's kind of the way it works. So anyway, The Body Code then is another book by Dr. Bradley Nelson. And again, you can train in this. And he goes into a lot of stuff with the body. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to just skip back. I'm just going to read out, not anything out of the book, because copyright and all the rest, I presume. But I want to just read out his content, just to give you an idea what he puts in the emotion code book. Okay, so trapped emotions. And he goes through all of this stuff. And like there's epigenetic energies that get passed on when you're in the womb. So when I was clearing stuff, like there was an incident with my mother when she was pregnant with me, and she was getting out of the car and her coat got trapped in the door and my father just drove off. So she had an energy, trapped emotion of shock, and that's a traumatic energy, and that was trapped when she was pregnant with me. So I would have inherited that energy of shock. So I was able to clear that shock energy. All of these things can affect you. They can affect your nervous system. They can affect your ability to heal, your health. A lot of this stuff can determine what kind of illnesses you're going to end up with as well, because it all gets passed on. The unresolved mental and emotional conflicts of your parents get passed on to you, and you have to try and heal them. But most of us are not trained in any of this. This is not your standard knowledge that most people would be aware of, you know. So he goes into trapped emotions, the invisible endemic, and he goes into, let me see, mysteries of ancient energy healers. He explains how energy healing works. Healing with magnets, he would suggest magnets, but there is another way that he suggests in the book, and I'll share it to you because I didn't use the magnets myself. You can get answers from the inner mind. He shares how to do that, how to release the trapped emotions. I was talking to you in the last video about how unresolved mental and emotional conflicts can lead us to illness because the energy is not flowing properly through the body. So this is very, very important work. Heart walls as well, how we build up a mental and emotional heart wall to block out trauma and stuff like that, and to stop, say you've been hurt, say you had a lot of breakups or bad dysfunctional relationships or something like that, you'd build up a mental or emotional heart wall around you to block yourself from being hurt again, and that just blocks any chance of having a decent relationship again. So it helps you to do that. He goes into how you can use this on animals as well, and then life without trapped emotions and what can possibly happen for you. And then he goes into about himself, full details of what he kind of done, and that he's a qualified chiropractor. He's very successful. He's done another thing called the Belief Code, but it hasn't come out in book form that I'm aware of, but he has a lot of practitioner courses on this. The Body Code, very, very interesting book, as I said to you. But I have it on the app now, but I initially bought the book, which gives you a great introduction to it, but not everything is on there. Now I pay for the app. I think, I'll have to check, I think it's around 32 euro, something like that now a month, but I use it every single day, and it's been very useful since the stroke. There's trapped energies in the body that we're not aware of, and then there's the situations and stresses and strains that we are faced with on a daily basis. I was saying to you in the last video, that got out of balance. The pressure got too much for me. So while I was doing all this work and have had great success with various different things, if you overload the body with too many toxins, so I had too much stress and too much pressures, I was eating too many sugary products, and it got myself stuck that I was barely even going out for a walk. So something's going to happen there. So I was saying to you in the last video that if you want to get better, you have to give up the things that are making you ill. So that's usually diet, lack of exercise, it could be alcohol or smoking or something like that, which I don't do. If you're not eating properly, if you're not exercising properly, but the other important part of this is your mind and your emotions. If your thoughts are in the wrong place, like I said, if you're thinking illness all the time, or thinking about everything goes wrong and everything like that, you're going to cause a problem in your body. And the same if you're repressing emotions and not speaking your truth honestly, you're going to get build-ups of energy in your body that gets blocked, and it forms kind of like a recovery interference. So your body, it sets up a thing called neuronal gating. It's where your body hasn't processed the trauma and it tries to shut it out, but it's still going around your system. There's a lot in this. I've done a massive amount of research and practice. So just to read some of the things, he explains about the foundations of the body code and using it and the mechanics of the body code. He shares about emotional energies, post-traumatic energies, allergies and ideas, and offensive energies. I would use this on a regular basis. He goes into pathogens and the energies behind the pathogens, circuits in the body, the organs, the glands, systems and disconnections. It's a fascinating book. He's a lot of videos on these things as well. Skeletal misalignments, soft tissue misalignments. He goes into dealing with toxins and heavy metals, biological poisons, food toxins and drug toxins, nutrition and lifestyle. And then, you can use this on animals as well. So it's a very, very good system. So I just wanted to share those two. So just to show to you again, these are the books I got, but as I say, I have the app. So the Body Code, Dr. Bradley Nelson. And then the Emotion Code, Dr. Bradley Nelson. So just briefly show you quickly, if I can get back into the app here for a minute. How do we find out what we have and how do we clear it? So in the book he suggests that you can use magnets. He said there's a meridian running from this point all the way back down to the back of your neck and all the way down to the middle of your spine. That meridian is like the information strip on a bank card. You know, the way you swipe it and it's got information on it. But this is very similar. This carries a lot of subconscious information of the body. So a lot of ancestral stuff, epigenetic stuff, and stuff we would have accumulated in our own lifetime is all stored in the subconscious along this governing meridian. And it holds a memory of all the stuff that has happened to us, the good stuff, the bad stuff, the traumatic stuff and everything like that. So that's all stored there. So he suggests that you can use a magnet. If you just roll it across there 3 times, down to the neck obviously for yourself, 3 times. And if it's an inherited emotion or energy, if you do it 10 times, you'll actually clear that energy. I've been practicing this for many years, but I actually use my hands. Initially, I used my hands and I cleared many, many different stuff and I felt better. There were days when I felt off. This is well before the stroke. There were days when I felt kind of off with the pressures of life, and I would just go and check what emotions I had, and gone. I'd feel great within a few minutes. And I've been doing this since the stroke, since I got home. I had the app with me on the phone in the hospital after the stroke, but I wasn't actually mentally able to do much work. And I use a pendulum now, but I didn't have one with me in the hospital. He shares ways of muscle testing, because the body has a way of determining truths and untruths in it. So if you've ever been to a kinesiologist where they test, sorry, I can't do this properly, sorry, it's the length, but they'll press down in your arm. If you've ever gone for an allergy test or anything like that with a kinesiologist, this is like applied kinesiology. You can ask someone, say, your name is, you ask them to resist, like you would with the tests you get after a stroke. You know the way they say, resist my arm, and let me push it down, see your strength. You're doing that. So you're pressing down on the arm. You say, my name is Paul, I say, resist, I should be strong to that, And if I say, my name is Bill, and I press that, I'll actually lose power because it's not true. The body knows what is true and what is not true. It's just amazing. It's just astounding, this work. He has different muscle testing. But if you've had a stroke and you haven't got full use of your arm, that's going to affect all of that. I hadn't got a stroke at the time. I preferred the sway test method. You can't do this if you've had a stroke and you're not steady on your feet. But if you're steady on your feet, you're standing up. If you close your eyes, I used to sandwich myself between, say, the bed. If I fell forward too far, I'd fall onto the bed, and if I fell backwards, I'd fall back to the wardrobe, so I wouldn't have too far to fall. So you have to be very careful doing this. But you stand up and close your eyes and say, my name is Paula, and I'd sway forward, and then my name is Bill, and I'd sway backwards for the on-route of it. Initially, I started detecting, do I have a trapped motion on the chart? So he has, I'll just see if I can show you here again, sorry, bear with me. So on this chart, you have 2 rows. There's 2 rows, A and B, and then you've got row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And what you say is, do I have a trapped emotion in row A? And I'd get, no. And then you have one in B. Yes, I've got one in B. Okay, column 1, column 2, okay, column 3, and off you go. And you say, right, so you'd have 10 trapped emotions there, and then you'd say, right, which is it? If it's in B, there's only 5 to look at. Is it this one? Is it this one? Is it this one? No, it's the last one. That's how I used to determine. And then once I found out, I kept a notebook and a pen. I went through so many copybooks because there's a lot of stuff to clear, but you do feel better as you go through it. So I would start writing down trapped emotion, despair, something like that. Ancestral, okay, how many generations did it go back? Maybe 4 generations, right? Can we clear for all the generations? Yeah, okay. Sometimes you'd be able to, sometimes you wouldn't. Did it get passed on to my children? Yep, okay, can we clear for them? Yes. So I would do that. So then I would swipe, if it's ancestral, it was doing 10 times. That's what I was doing. So then I graduated then slowly onto a pendulum. And that was before the stroke happened, obviously. So I was doing a lot of pendulum work. So a pendulum works in the same way. I'll just see if I can get my pendulum there. So just to show you what I do. It works in the same way. Because the index finger is like the meridians, it's connected to the subconscious mind, and you can get a yes or no. So I would use the pendulum. Do I have this trapped emotion? Then I'd get a yes, it would go forward, and I'd say, do I have this trapped emotion? No. Okay, and then I'd ask, can I clear it? And the pendulum would just spin around by itself. Okay. And when it stops, I know that the energy has been cleared, because I'm using the power of intention. Everything is energy. Your mind is energy, your thoughts are energy, your emotions are energy. So you can change things with energy, with focused attention, intention and attention. I would do a lot of that work on myself to clear emotions, which is fascinating. And when I was in the hospital after the stroke, obviously I didn't have the ability to stand up and do a sway test. I wasn't able to do the muscle testing with the fingers because I was very weak and obviously paralysed on one side, so that wasn't much use to me. So I decided to myself, how will I going to get my yes and no answers here? Because I knew I had to keep trying. So in the second week, I was like able for a minute or 2 minutes of this kind of stuff, but I kept trying. And when you keep trying, there's neuroplasticity in the brain. So I managed over a period of time now, so it's taken me ages, but I've got myself back now that I can do a full session on myself now. Whereas I could only do a little bit. I got my family to bring in a notebook, and I had been given a notebook in the hospital as well. I got a pen in, and I was able to write down what was I clearing. So I had a record of all of that. When I was a hypnotherapist, we had a thing called idiomotor response, which is when I had a client in trance and I wanted to communicate with them and didn't want to bring them out of trance, I would ask their body to give me a signal through idiomotor response. So I used this in the hospital after the stroke. I would say, do I have a trapped emotion? And I'd get yes. I'd say, right, I'm going to train my finger. So I got a yes at the index finger, and then I asked my little finger to give me a no. I put my hand on the table. I used to always get someone to sit me up in a chair where you'd have your dinner, and I'd use that table. I'd get up very early in the morning. Sometimes I'd be up 6 or half 6 in the morning. Before everyone else got up, I'd get someone to get me up and sit me in the chair, because I couldn't bear the bed anyway. It was painful. So while I was sitting there bored, I would try and do work on my app silently. Nobody knew what I was doing. I would ask for the yes, and I would ask for the no. And this is not a life or death thing. You don't use this for medical emergencies, okay? I just want to put that big disclaimer in here. Nothing of what I share should ever replace medical help and professional advice or anything like that. This is not meant for that at all. This is just meant for clearing mental and emotional energies You go and get your blood tests, you go and get your meds if you need your meds, you go and get whatever you need to get done. You can't take a chance on that, it's too serious. Especially after a stroke, you do not take chances. I don't. I mean, I look after myself properly, but this is supplementary to that. And it helps me. It helps me find peace inside. And, you know, there's no guarantee that I'll never get another stroke or something else won't happen, but I'm going to lessen the chances, put it that way. Same way as eating properly, exercising properly. This is mental exercise. I'm not saying it'll guarantee you anything, but it'll lessen your chances. You have a better chance of prolonging your life and having a happier, healthier life and suffering less in your mind, you know. So that's kind of the work I do with this. I use the ideomotor responses then to get signals from my body to let me know, did I have a trapped emotion or something like that. And as I say, I work with this system every day. So I'll just show you again. I'll go back in. So that's the app on the phone that I have. My pendulum now is my preferred method. Although I can do a sway test sitting as well. I can actually do that now, depending on the angle I'm at. Nothing's ever 100%. Look, no medication's ever 100%. No treatment is ever 100%. This is no different. It's not always 100%. But the way I look at it is, it's do no harm. You're doing no harm. If you're trying to clear a mental or emotional thing, you're not going to do any harm, because if you've got post-traumatic energies or stuff like that, it's putting your system in fight and flight. If you can get yourself out of fight and flight, your immune system is going to start working for you. That's, at least if you got nothing else out of this, at least if it did that for you, wouldn't that be a good thing? That's the way I look at it. So like, I would use my pendulum, and it might be just different things that come up. So it might be, say I got energy came up. When I say which, I would ask, which column is it in? Is it on the left or the right? So I'd get left. Okay, is it energy? Yes, I get a yes for energy. So then in energy you have you have different systems. You'd have like post-traumatic, offensive, mental. So I'm just going to go into mental here. So in mental you'd have a thing called broadcast message, or no will to energies, or will to energies, or memory fields, or programming. So memory fields could be, say, I had a lot of stuff to clear in the memory fields. Well, I've had a lot of stuff to clear and all over the place, but memory fields, I had memories of the shock of having a stroke, knowing the inevitability of having to go into hospital and leaving the grown-up children who all have Asperger's like myself, different levels. There was traumatic energies when they took me out of the bed in a chair, and then they came down the stairs with the chair, and of course there was panic at the top of the stairs because I was in shock and I was thinking, what if they dropped me? There was panic left on the stairs, because we can leave traces of energy behind us, and that can affect us the next time we go there. So the memory fields, programming then is another one, and there's despair anchors. So I had a lot of despair anchors. That's an energy gets trapped in the body of the despair of being, you know, finding myself paralyzed. So I've cleared all of that. I mean, you keep coming back. It's like layers of an onion. You'll clear some, whatever your body will let you do, because there's a recovery interference energy in the body, and it'll block it for your safety. If it thinks you can't process too many traumatic events, it'll block. But it causes a blockage of flow of energy through your body as well. So there's a lot of things in the body code where you can clear recovery energies, but your body will only allow you to do as much as is safe. It'll let you clear, and you might have 2 or 3 days to process that, and then it might allow you to come back initially at the start. That's the way it was for me. Now I can clear every single day, just once a day. Just a little bit, it might be 10 minutes, it could be 20 minutes, it could be a bit longer. But every day I check and clear. Yeah. So there's different things there. Belief code is a system that's not available on this, but I've actually got a collection of beliefs now. I have charts, I have a whole workstation beside me, which you can't see where I am. But I have about 7 or 8 different energy healing systems that I work with. So I've got motion code, body code, I have court of atonement, I have spiritual release therapy, spiritual response therapy, I use glyphs, and I have a few other, I have pendulum alchemy as well, spiritual healing, and there's another thing called healing codes. I'll share that with you another day. So I work through many different systems for this kind of stuff. So I'll go back. So offensive is another set of categories. The particular one I want to share with you is post-hypnotic suggestions. There's an explanation of it, and then it has a chart of different post-hypnotic suggestions. Now the reason I want to share that was the ambulance brought me down to a hospital, and they checked me for clot or bleed. So they brought me to another hospital. So while I was waiting to be admitted to the second hospital, first ambulance driver, lovely, he was sitting in with me all the journey. We had a good natter as much as I could. I was trying to take my mind off my stroke, so I was still able to kind of talk. You know, I was slow, but I was able to be understood, and I was able to understand. So we had a little light chat, which was great. And then he went off to get the papers signed when we got to the second hospital, and the driver was with me, and I was trying to make small talk with him to take my mind off things, and he started telling me that this was terrible, terrible thing. He said, like, people like me years ago, would be dead. That, we were an awful drain on resources, this kind of stuff. And it was terrible. Like, and then the other guy came back and he said, that's very grim. And we laughed about it, but I thought, that's terrible. But when I got back home after rehabilitation and several home, and I was doing more advanced work, when I was able to get my mind back working again, I went in and checked for post-hypnotic suggestions, because, and I mentioned this before in other videos, when you're in a place of shock or after a stroke or something like that, your body is in fight or flight, so you're on survival mode. It's like the reptilian brain, which is a very, very primitive part of your brain, has gone into survival mode, and it's just barely keeping you alive. But you're also in alpha theta mode, which is highly susceptible to suggestion, which is the state I would bring people into for trance when I was doing the hypnosis work. Talk to them, bring them into a relaxed state, slowly back to that state of mind, so we could work with belief systems and stuff that weren't working from. That was the work I did before, long before the stroke. And I still do self-hypnosis on myself. The things we say to ourselves are very, very important. I'll just give you a quick example. If someone was trying to quit smoking or something, while they're in trance, and once we'd got to the point where they were happy enough to quit, and they were doing it for themselves and not for anybody else, and they were convinced that they could do it, that their belief in themselves had risen and their confidence had risen. Once it got them to that point, I'd give them a few post-hypnotic suggestions, and I'd suggest that, the next time you're driving and you see a stop sign, it'll remind you to stop and think about how healthy you are now that you're a non-smoker, that kind of thing. Post-hypnotic suggestions. So I was in fight and flight, shock after getting a stroke, in the middle of it, lying on a trolley, don't know what my fate is going to be, absolutely terrified of what was going to be. I didn't know what was ahead of me or what they do with a stroke. I didn't know anything about that last year. And I'm there, and this guy's telling me that people like me shouldn't be here. And I'm very good, consciously, I've done so much self-esteem work on myself. I was going, well, fuck you, you know what I mean? I don't believe this. I have a right to be here as anybody else. But the subconscious mind took it on board. And I ended up having to release a post-hypnotic suggestion of, like, I shouldn't be here. I should be dead. All this kind of stuff. I'm worthless. It transferred different information into my subconscious mind, which, had I not been consciously aware, I would have maybe lost the will to live, and maybe would not have recovered the way I have. I mean, I've done marvellous work on myself, and I still a long way to go, I think, but I've done marvellous work on myself. As I have the self-esteem work done, it gave me the spark that you can try. I don't know how far I'll get, but it's given me the confidence to try. But had I not done that work, and that subconscious post-hypnotic suggestion had stayed in my mind, that might have been a whole different result. I wouldn't have even got this far. It took me a lot to get back and actually be able to do a video here. This has had to taken an awful lot out of me to do this, and I'm actually here now and I can do it. It still wrecks me afterwards, but I feel like I have a purpose. I have something to share that might benefit somebody, and it's given me something to get up for, which is wonderful. But we have to be careful what we say to people after strokes. Very, very careful. And another thing with this, and I won't ramble on too much further, but when you're paralyzed and you can't lift your arm and you can't lift your leg, and people are getting flustered and they're busy and they're hassly, and it feels like you're a nuisance after a while. And I'm not saying that that's the way they treat you, but that's the way you'll perceive it. You feel it's pointless to try, it's useless, I'm not going to be able to do this. You start telling yourself things. All of this is going into your subconscious mind, and unless you start consciously working with it, so you've got that stuff in there, if you don't start coming in with a script saying, okay, I can't do it right now, but there will be a time when I will, and you start putting into your imagination that there is a chance that you will at some stage, but you just have to give your body a rest. Synapses have been broken, neural pathways have been disconnected, lots of damage has been done there. You have to give yourself a chance to rest before your body will come back. And like I said in another video, how long did it take us to walk and talk and move our arms and move about. Initially as a child, well, it took us at least a year. Most people were somewhere between a year and 3 before they got to walk. And some people were longer and delayed in their speech as well, you know. So it takes time. Again, when you've had a stroke, it's like you've been reset back to childhood again. That's what I likened it to anyway. So it's going to take you time to recover. And because a little bit of damage has been done that wasn't done initially at the start, it's going to take time. Now the brain has a massive ability to heal. Neuroplasticity of the brain is a fantastic subject. Maybe I'll do a video on that someday, the stuff I've learned since the stroke. I knew a little bit, but I've learned so much more about what the brain can compensate for. Even if you only had half a brain, it could compensate for that. It's amazing. I've read so many different stories about this. It's fascinating. But anyway, back to the subject at hand. So I spoke about in the last video about watching your thoughts kind of thing. If you can consciously think, say for your recovery for the stroke, to make it relevant for you, you're lying there paralysed and you think there's no future for you and that's just the end. Maybe it's not the end. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's only the beginning of a new exciting adventure. It certainly has been for me. I mean, I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but look, hey, if life gives you lemons, make lemonade with it, you know what I mean? Or do something with it. Try and find a way to get something better for yourself, even if it's only one small thing. That's why I started with, it's like, can I move my hand? Is there any way I could get my hand to go around something? And moving it with the other hand to get the muscle memory initially. And then with my mind, just I can see myself, imagining myself, my best self, moving my arm again. And then with lots of practice and lots of mental effort as well. And with the help of the emotion code and with the help of the body code and the app I have on my phone, have been clearing all these post-hypnotic suggestions, energy saying that I can't do something or it's not possible, and just opening my mind. I've actually been able to get this far that at least I can use, look, both hands, and not quite there with the leg yet, but can actually walk with a rollator now and can walk with a stick for very, very short distances. So, and I have got my mind back somewhat to where I was before the stroke in 13 months, and the ability to see and to read and to comprehend stuff. Now there's days when I can't, so I'm not 100%, it's not the way I was before, but compared to where I was this time last year, certainly I see the improvement of myself. Anyway, so that's all I want to say to you about that. Maybe you'll be interested enough to check him out. I think his website is discoverhealing.com or something like that. And he has lots of information and videos on YouTube, and there's lots of people posting on YouTube sharing about how they've made a difference in their lives using this work. If you think you might have trapped emotions or unresolved mental or emotional conflict, get them out of you, get them out. Don't let them stay in your body, because they're blocking the energy flow going around your body and they're going to cause you pain or illness or something. That's been my experience with using this work. So get the energy flowing and get yourself thinking clearly as well, by using the breathing technique and stuff that I shared in other videos. I hope you find this interesting and useful to you. Give me feedback if you want to, like or comment or subscribe if you want to keep in touch. I'm going to keep sharing what I'm using to help me recover from my stroke. And I have a lot of systems to share, and I'll share some of them with you anyway, and hopefully it'll make a difference to someone out there. Okay, so wishing you a very, very blessed day. Take care to all of you. Bye.